Hello and welcome back. Performing a web UI test with Scandium is easy and straightforward. In this session, we'll be looking at how we can perform web UI testing with Scandium in these few steps. First, we create our project and then we create a new test case. Then we record our test, add our test steps, add an assertion, and then run our test. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is to log in with our valid credentials that we used in creating an account earlier. So I'll put my email and the password and I'll click on login. So once we're in on our dashboard, if you follow my cursor where you have welcome Jack, here we have this drop down that says default project. So click on it and we have our add new project. I'll just go right ahead and do that. I would call this project demo, give it a description of demo. Let's just say demo viz, then purpose, getting a glimpse of the tool. And we're creating a web UI test, so it's the project type is automatically set on web, so I don't need to make any changes to that. I'll just click on create project and we're in. We no longer have our default project here, but the name of our project. So now that we've created our project, we can now go ahead and create our test case. So we'll just go straight to test. And here we have three options or two options of creating our test. We have over here, the top right hand corner, you have this plus sign and a new test. You can actually go there and create your test, or you use this create button here, create test button here. So what I would do first is to create a folder. So this folder helps me to organize all of my tests so that I don't have my tests flying around. So what I'll just do is click on new folder and I'll call this folder sample and I'll click on create folder. So once my folder is created, I would just go inside of the folder and create my test. I'll come here and I'll go on create test. So here we have our test. Our test is untitled. So I would call this test one. And we have this box here where you have to put in your starting URL of whatever web application you want to carry out your test on. So I'll just put in my URL and click on record. So once I click on record, I am being taken to a new window where Scandium loads the URL. So all I just need to do here is to log in. So I would just go ahead and put in the login details and I'll put in a password and I'll click on login. So before I perform any other action here or any other activity, if you look at this right hand side, the right hand corner side of my screen, you would see you have this small movable pane. So the first one here, you have this stop record. So it's a stop record button in case you want to stop your record at any point. Here you have your pause record. You have your mailbox. We have our assertion button, which is like the validation we'll be carrying out. So I would just go right ahead and perform. I would add this to cart and I'll add this to cart. I will go to my cart and we have those items that I added to cart. So I'll just go right ahead and check out. I'll put in the first name, Jack. and I'll click on continue. So here we have our checkout overview, and I would just go right ahead and click on finish. So here we have our finish, our success message. So we have finish and we have thank you for your order. So what I would do is to validate this page to be sure. So I'll click on my assert button. We have two options that you can use to validate elements or text or items on the page. So the first one we have you can actually assert the page URL, you can assert page title or any text within that page, or you can assert by element. So I'll just click on this, and once I move my cursor, you tend to see that Scandium highlights all the elements you have on the page. So I would just assert this. I would click on this, and I have a new command that says I'll just click on the command, and I would select element should be visible, and I'll save my assertion. So once I'm done saving my assertion, I would stop my recording. And once I stop my recording, I'm being brought back to Scandium dashboard where I started initially. So here you can see every of my test steps, every activity I carried out being recorded in steps that, so I would just go right ahead and save this. So once my test is being saved successfully, I would just go and run my test. I would just run. So without even moving an inch, I would just watch how Scandium replays my activities that I've done prior to this time. Yes. So we now have this message which says Scandium has finished playing test scenarios. Check dashboard for results. So I would go ahead and click close this window, and we have this message that says all tests passed. We can see that all of our tests here, they passed, none of them failed. So in situations whereby you want to make changes or you want to like debug or check for what's happening or what's wrong in any of your particular tests, you have this plus sign here. So we'd click on this plus sign, and we have these options here. So you can view step details, you can start your playback from this point, you can start recording from this point, and we have our settings. So I'll just go right ahead and open our settings for that particular step. So here we have different options whereby we have our failure mode, we have precondition mode, we have our sleep time, in which we'll be looking at all of this in uh course in the later course of this tutorial. So another amazing thing about Scandium is, apart from you being able to go to a particular step and make changes and edits and updates to a particular step, you can get a visualization to have a better understanding of why a particular test step is failing by just clicking on this view details, and you come here, you click on result. So here you have a side-by-side comparison of the baseline actually depicts what Scandium saw when we were recording at the initial phase, and the result shows what Scandium played back as at the time we replayed our test. So if at all a particular test steps is failing, you should be able to get a visual representation of what Scandium played and what Scandium is seeing as at the time of replay, which helps, goes a long way in our debugging process. So I'll just go back to my test step, and we'll just go back to, okay, I would save my step. I'll save my test rather. Okay, so go back to dashboard. So once I go back to dashboard, this was the test. This is like this. This is the dashboard, shows a summary of all the tests. So because for this course, I just recorded just this test. So you have this, and you can get details. So here you have the environment in which our test was being run. We did that on Chrome and Windows. And we have our date, we have the duration, and it took Scandium to run the test, and we can see the status of the test. So if I should go further to click on that particular test, we should be able to have how many times we ran the test. So for this tutorial, we've run this test twice. We can see the details that it passed twice here, and we don't have any of our tests failing at the moment. So this is how you can create and run a web test with Scandium. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and see you in the next session.